Tape www.suividecolosénégal.com. À École au Sénégal, c'est facile, tu n'as qu'à te connecter. Tape École au Sénégal, les leçons sont beaucoup plus détaillées.
You see, we have the disagreement, okay? So the disagreement is you're not in accordance. You are not adhering to what they're saying. You are not, you don't feel right about it, either something or someone. There's just something that's disturbing, or you know that it's just not right, or you don't have the concrete proofs and you disagree, about it. What is the right way to say it? Because sometimes you're gonna say that's not true. To tell someone that's not true could be really, really rude, especially if it's an elderly person. If it's an elderly person, you cannot tell an elderly person that's not true or I don't want to. Okay, there are better ways of presenting something, either to your boss, either to your teacher, either to someone senior, or either to your parents. I mean, an elderly and senior person, even your colleagues, if you want to do something in a more formal way, without really having to raise disputes or arguments or a fight or some kind of problems, what are some of the proper ways that you can present an argument, you can present a disagreement? Actually, the expressions for a disagreement, even if you have a dispute, even if it's your best friend and you don't want to lose or you don't want to hurt that person's feelings, it's important that you present it the right way, okay? And of course, stand firm to what you believe. If you know it's not correct, if you know that you don't want it, you stand firm. But it's the manner in which you present it that matters. It's the words that you present that matters. It's your appearance that you present that matters. Because sometimes you could be telling someone, oh, I'm sorry, but your physical expression is not showing that you're sorry. Okay, and what people read first is not what comes out of the mouth, but people read first the physical. They always judge from the physical. You judge a book from the physical. And so it's important that the way you present yourself before the word that comes up to your mouth, they need to be in sync, okay? They need to actually link up so people get it, so people understand, okay? And so these are some disagreements. And of course, I have about 7 on the board, disagreements. And I think there are a lot more. I think if you have, I'm saying 9, and there are a lot more out there. You just need to figure out. And so the first one is a simple one that people often use. I'm afraid, but I'm sorry, but sorry to disappoint you. I'm sorry, but that's not true. I'm afraid, but I don't agree with you. This could actually be sometimes formal, but it just depends on the way you present. It just depends on your tone of presenting. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid, but sorry to disappoint you. And then another one, you might be right, but, see, you might be right. You might be right, but I do not agree with you. You might be right. If that person is not quite sure about the situation, if you're not certain, you say, oh, well, maybe you need some more time to go verify, to go cross-check, to go see into it, to do more research. So you might be right, but I don't think I want to go with that. You might be right, but I don't think I'm going to sign that contract. I don't share your point of view if you're sure and you're certain, because might here means that it's double-sided, it's a 50-50. You're not sure, you're not certain. So you don't want to venture into something that you're not completely or totally sure about it. So you say, well, you might be right, but I think I'll wait a little bit more longer. You might be right about that situation, but I think I'll wait. You might be right, but I don't think I'm going to sign right now because I need to make sure. So might be that there's a possibility that it's a yes or a no. But until it's a yes or until it's a no, I'm going to stay back. I'm going to stay back. Until I'm sure, until you're certain, you're going to stay back. And so if a statement or you're in a situation like that, you say, well, sir, well, ma'am, you might be right. You may have a point. That's another one. It's a possibility. May, might are models. So there's a possibility that you might be right. But for now, I'm going to stay out. For now, I'm not going to follow you. For now, I'm not going to sign this paper. For now, I cannot support you until I'm sure, until I'm certain. So might is a possibility. It's a probability. Okay? But I don't share your point of view. I mean, it's totally not. There's nothing to say, it's certain, it's completed, it's concluded. I do not share your point of view. I don't share your view. I don't share in your reasoning. I don't share in your conclusion. I do not share it. Okay? I think otherwise. Maybe you're thinking that, well, let's wait during the summer when, everything is okay, the weather is good, before we launch that product. But I'm like, no, I'm thinking otherwise. The time is now. There's a huge demand for it now. Why wait till summer? So I don't share. I'm thinking otherwise. I'm thinking differently. I'm thinking the other way around. I'm thinking that we should use a different route. I'm thinking otherwise. It's a good term to learn. Otherwise. Otherwise means, in another way. Otherwise. So if you don't, otherwise what? If you don't go to school today, otherwise what? What would you be doing? So otherwise. It's another way of French one will say, et alors, that's another way. Otherwise. Or I beg to differ. You're in a situation where, there are other ideas and people are probably agreeing and you feel like you're the odd person in the class, or odd person, in that congregation, or odd person, in that particular place, and you'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I beg to differ. It means you're begging their indulgence, that you're hoping that it's not going to hurt them. It's a good way. You're hoping that you being different is not going to hurt them. They're going to look at you differently. So, I beg to differ. It means that your point of view, you're different. I beg to differ. What they're saying is not what you're thinking. What you're saying, it may or may not be true. What you're saying is totally not in accordance with what you know. So you beg to differ. That is too polite, even. That's very courteous. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. That's not always the case. That's not always the case. That's not always true. That's not always the case. That's not always true. That's not always the case. That's not always the case. That's not always true. It means that people feel like in a situation where there's a routine. There's a routine all the time. Sticks and stones. There's a routine. There's a routine. There's a routine. There's a routine. She gets up in the morning. She brushes her teeth. Every day she takes a glass of milk. Every day she takes a glass of milk. Every morning she takes a glass of milk. And then someone says, "But no, that's not always true. That's not always the case. Sometimes she will switch to a cup of tea." So that's not always the case, that it's always set in stone. It just sticks there. It's just a normal routine. It doesn't bend. It doesn't switch. She does not have variety. Oftentimes, it's a place for people that don't have variety, that people claim or feel like they don't have variety. It's always, black on Friday, white on Sunday, green on Wednesday. But like, no, that's not always true. That's not always true that she puts on black on Friday. Oftentimes, we would switch to purple. So that's not always the case. That's not always the case. That's not always true that it snows during winter. Not often. Not often. That's not always the case. So situations where people feel like it's set in stone, that it's just there, it's every day, it's a daily thing, it's a yearly thing, it's just a permanent thing that does not bend, that does not change, that does not, vary. You say, oh, that's not always the case. Sometimes he comes to work by bike. Sometimes he takes a cab. He doesn't drive all the time, so that's not always the case. Or that's not always true. That's not true. So it depends on the situation. If it's a routine, oftentimes you use that's not always the case. Now, I'm not sure I agree with you. I'm not sure I agree with you. It's a polite way of saying, no, I don't agree. It's a polite, let's just be frank. This is just a polite way of saying, nah, I don't agree with what you're saying. You hear that probably with your boss or someone saying, oh, I'm not sure I agree with you, sir. It's a polite way of saying, you're lying. It's a polite way of saying that that's not true what you're saying. It's a polite way of saying, I'm not going to go with you because I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm not sure I agree with you, sir. I'm not sure I agree with you, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure I agree with you. I believe your argument doesn't, You see, I believe your argument does not hold water. Americans love to say that. I believe argument is not. It means that you don't have solid reasons. You don't have a firm grip. You don't have potential reasons. What are your reasons? So I just believe that argument, I just believe that what you're saying does not hold water. It's not standing, it cannot grab, it's not standing, it's not verified, it's not true, it cannot be ascertained. I'm not sure that what you're saying, that argument, that thought holds water. I'm not certain. So if you're not certain, you'll be like, nah, you don't hold water. Nah, it's just a rumor. Nah, I don't think so. What you saying? What are you talking about? That Candy came in this morning, what's your proof? Oh, no. That argument, that thought, that what you're saying is not true. That's it, it don't hold water because it got no proof. It has no evidence. Okay, that might be true, but that might be true. It means you feel like there could be a better opinion. You feel like there could be a better solution. You feel like, you can give it a shot. You feel like you can succeed if you just hang on a second, if you just hold on, if you just stick there, if you just wait a little bit, you feel like it could be better. So that might not be true, or that might be true. But I think I'll just hang on later, I think I'll just be patient for a while, I think I'll go for the surgery and let's see how it goes. So, that might be true, but, so you're having like, you don't want to go in, you don't want to agree with that person. You want to try a little bit longer. You want to wait a little bit longer. So that's it. That's actually it. So that is an agreement, and a disagreement. And I told you guys, I know it's a lot to sink in. It's a lot to sink in, but get the best out of it. Pick out the best of the six. Pick out the six best of expressions of the agreement. Pick out, these are just 4 or 5. Change a little bit, even in your disagreement. Change a little bit. Just pick out 5 or 6 or so of it and use it and let it sink in, and examples of it, and change it. You're gonna see how it's just gonna get better. Use it daily. Practice it. Practice it. Practice it. With the people, your entourage. Practice it. Learn it and let it stick in, let it sink in, let it stay in, let it go in. Okay? Use it often. Use it often. I think it's going to help. But take note about the spelling. I told you when to use the formal and the informal, and so take note about it.